All right, everybody, welcome back here, of course, to our coverage of the OWCS Group A. This is one of our winners games here. We're Twisted Minds off to an absolute banger of a start there. It really seemed like they pulled out a composition from the history books, Matt. Zarya Cassidy with Lucio, some permutation of that. Very, very hard to beat, very resilient, and obviously with really high damage. It's a comp that really shuts down a lot of those airborne targets, like Naga on that Echo.
Yeah, right now you just start every composition with Kiriko, Lucio, and then just fill in everything else after that, as those two heroes in the support role seem to be extremely strong with what they can provide. So King's Row coming up next. This is selected by Team Peps. So feels like, at least with how map 1 went, like this is a must-win type of scenario.
Chance to pick your brain here, because the Cassidy composition was tough to break down, and we saw a late switch eventually to like a Reaper Winston setup from Team Peps. Is that the antidote to this? Because we didn't see much of it. Again, the one Winston dive that worked got grabbed instantly with like a wombo combo thrown in, so we have no data really on it. Is that where Peps should be going if they're gonna have to deal with this Zarya comp over and over again?
No. So like we've seen teams actually play like a decent amount of Diva, right? But you're not gonna, like, especially like with teams that play like the 76, but you're not gonna play Diva into Zarya. Like that would just be crazy, right? It looks like here at the start they're just gonna keep playing this Echo based setup. Okay. And maybe you think you can just coordinate these dives a bit better.
Naga's forced to back away straight away. Look at the speed in which, Twisted Minds able to push through. Just so you know, obviously Twisted Minds are on the right and Peps are on the left here, so Peps defending. Yeah, already losing Naga, not a great start. Now your burst damage is gone and you've lost your mobility. So basically, off the rip, we are utterly chalked. Cronus here looking to group up and we're realizing that some of the Peps players are a little bit low. Stelios getting brought down by Slay absolutely seals it.
It must be awesome to play with Quartz. Like, hey, we're just gonna go right in and you tell us what you need and you can just kill everybody. As he gets the speed boost right through the choke here, like right through Hotel up around the other side. They take out Naga, who's playing the Echo at that point, and look at this. So they see this change coming in with the Winston Reaper, and they do play the Diva on the other side. Okay, so, all right, so now we're gonna see a Ramatra switch up, which, like, Ramatra, I feel like if you were to say like who is the most well-rounded or overall tank to play in different situations right now, I feel like at least my take would be the Ramatra. Like, it feels like the safest alternative, and I mean they just blow Hybrid up right away.
Hybrid is down. Quartz does get traded though, as Naga seems to have slipped in mostly undetected while Twisted Minds are trying to bring that Winston down. Crucially though, your initiation really now has been diminished, losing that. Winston and FD God gets left out to dry. Well, it wouldn't be an FD God game without it happening once or twice, I suppose. Cronus was hoping to get away with a swift step, but Slay again finds a kunai headshot, claims his opposite number.
Yes, they're going to get Naga as well. So this is a brutal start here for Peps, as Twisted Minds are going to get close to the second checkpoint. And I mean, what? They'll have that Kitsune rush. You'll have it on both sides. And this time, Kelleck's actually well ahead of FD God in terms of sound barrier, right? So maybe you trade out these rushes. Like, I think the Reaper really scary inside of the rush, right? So it's a huge fight for Peps, so they need a win.
Yeah, just in a rush from both sides here, and again in the front line is KSA. Is able to bring Hybrid down, but Quartz has fallen. Pulse bomb here for Stelios. Wasn't able to find too much of that action in the previous map. An opportunity should yield itself here. Sound barrier comes out. Stelios again, definitely not really inclined to pulse midway through that, but now has a chance to finish the fight. Short-handed sound barrier, perhaps Twisted Minds just getting a little ahead of themselves.
Yeah, but what do you think about FD God responding with the sound barrier after, right? It's like a 3-on-5 at that point, and even though they have the beat on the other side, like, do you feel like you're in a scenario where you could lose the fight, right? Like, because now Twisted Minds comes back, you have this Ramatra ult, right? Into Annihilation, you speed him in there with the Moira, and like, you have no response to that.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. You probably don't want to be making use of that there. It could be a hybrid's calling for it because he's very low and is worried how the fight breaks down in the first few seconds of the engagement.
That's also true. Like, if you lose hybrid there, do you have KSA pop the annihilation, right? And then, like, maybe you can kind of turn it. Like, so that would probably be the reason why. But not having the beat for this or any type of survivability is going to be tough.
You're in big trouble. I mean, even the Primal Rage, look at all of that extra health basically got brought down to nothing. You are going to wish you had that barrier back, 100%. KSA didn't really have to do anything special about how he deployed the Annihilation. Just pop it once he felt that hybrid was committed, and he's switching now over to the Doomfist.
It's also like how bad it is also kind of like exacerbated by how close they are to the point, right? Because like, you know, Peps can't like just disengage from the annihilation, like, because they have to fight on the point, right? They don't want to give the point up, so they're just even in a worse spot there during that.
Through the vortex, Stelios goes very, very low, but is able to make it out alive. 3 minutes and 47 seconds on the clock, so not a trifling amount here for Twisted Minds. They've been pretty speedy getting across this map. And in this next fight, we will have sound barriers matched here. FD God really hoping to get that timing down, especially to shut down a Death Blossom. Here's the call from Slay.
Yeah, but you don't take an early fight here for Peps, so you give up a ton of car progress and now put yourself in like a one fight territory. But Naga with that first pick's huge.
Now, what is Stelios rather looking for here? Hybrid still kept topped up. There it is. That's what he was looking for. The pulse bomb onto the two most important targets in this composition. Surely going to give you some breathing room.
Yeah, and maybe now, like, do you take these fights around this first corner, right? Like, don't get the Menace scenario where you have to drop down and fight, as Twisted Minds looks like they're going to make a change here. Do you do the Zarya as well? Yeah, so I don't think you could play the Cassidy without the Zarya, to be quite frank. Like, I think it needs that extra survivability, right? You're almost kind of like just trying to bait them in to dive on the Quartz and make a play.
Yeah, and because Quartz's damage come in singular instances and they're pretty telegraphed, it's easy to get a bubble in place before the Doomfist comes punching or comes slamming down on you. Okay, I don't mind that sticky bomb deployment there. It's going to be an earlier sound barrier here from FD God, and Kellex holds his nerve for the time being. Sees Narka duplicate the Zarya, and now it's going to go for a Twisted Mind sound barrier after that. This will get them through that Alpha Strike damage, and it buys Quartz enough time to bring Hybrid and Cronus down again, finding a Kiriko with a headshot midway through the fight. This one is over. The switch to the Zarya composition. Twisted Minds wanted Peps to bring the Doomfist back, playing right into their hands. And now with, again, more than 2 minutes potentially on the clock to work with, they've got to be feeling good about how these last couple of fights have gone. Hybrid constantly getting thwarted as he tries to engage with these punches. Deadeye from Quartz tucked in there on that right-hand side. Kellex now trying to force Stelios away. Naga has to be very careful, and Quartz will finish the job there. Some stall with a Tracer never goes awry. Hybrid getting caught again by that hinder, so forced to stand in place for the time being, now down to 1:44. That will do it. Plenty of time for Twisted Minds to work with.
Yeah, and the biggest play during that was actually like, so Peps gets some early damage down onto Kellex, and Kellex is the sound barrier, and they kind of like all in on him, but it's a really nice bubble from KSA that kind of keeps him up. And then he sound barriers after that, and Peps is in so deep, and they've committed so much to try and get that kill onto Kellex that at that point there was like no way they were going to get out, and everybody's basically at like half to low HP, and then that's where you see Quartz just take out two right away.
No, it's not the issue, right? With this comp, which features Doomfist and Echo, is that you have to commit. You are committing to achieve your function. You must commit, and when it gets turned around with a Zarya bubble or a sound barrier, you have lost agency over that fight.
Especially when you see the Lucio like below 50% HP, right? That's like the kind of the go sign for the Echo, like in with the focusing beam, but it's KSA with the Zarya bubble, and then also the area that Kellex is in is where that mega health pack is. So he gets the Zarya bubble, then gets the mega, then comes back around the corner and sound barriers, and your team is just, I mean, there's nothing you could do at that point, right? You're just in no man's land. Like, you're in so deep that you commit. Like, at that point, right, you probably have no shift on the Echo. You have no focusing beam, right? Doom has used a bunch of his cooldowns. Like, there's no way of getting out of that.
I think KSA and Co have read the composition from Peps out of the gates here. Not only do they have the Ramatra, which is a great pick against the Winston, but also the Moira with that extra mobility in case she gets selected as the dive candidate. And let's not forget the Sojourn, also a classic pick for Quartz. So much mobility on this Twisted Minds teams that they'll have the ability to decide how these engagements go, even if they're defending.
Well, I mean, that's a huge pick off, right? You get rid of Slay. That's a large source of the healing out of the way. And FD God falls early, so both teams just trade a support.
Yeah, but again, it's later in the fight, right? Like after the dive comes in, there's some degree of commitment from Peps. Stelios able to find something, and even without that Kiriko, you're able to stand on your own 2 feet for a time. We see a very quick switch to Doomfist here. Hybrid really trying to get a favorable matchup in the tank line, but look, in a longer fight, it does not benefit Peps. They have a lot of burst damage and a lot of shock factor, but when that expires, so do they.
Yeah, and Quartz back over to the Cassidy, right? So it can play a little bit more in that mid-range as opposed to Sojourn, kind of like playing out that long range. I also think it's way easier to deal as FD God falls. It's way easier, I think, to deal with the Echo as Cassidy as opposed to Sojourn. Like, you need to just build up those rail shots on the Sojourn where you don't have like you had Winston on the other side, right? And could build up like railgun shots and like the bubble. Yeah, farming shields. Like, you could totally do that, but without the Winston in play, I think the Cassidy is just a safer bet.
Yeah, because all you're doing is the Sojourn is you're powering up the power block of a Doomfist player, right? By trying to charge your railgun. There's just not a lot of sort of synergy there in terms of how you get value with Sojourn. And they're here, forced away once more. Team Pepsi a little bit split. Slay. Okay, forces to stick around here inside the theater. The pulse bomb though, Kellex is going to get felled by that 100%, but Naga does fall. So still, Twisted Minds are able to trade in a relatively positive fashion, and they're more than happy to use the Coalescence to stay in an aggressive footing.
Man, it's wild to see because like obviously Peps, they want to be like extremely aggressive with this composition, but like Twisted Minds also like using that speed boost and like actually bringing the fight to Peps is one of the interesting little wrinkles here on King's Row.
1 minute 52 left. Not a lot of time for Peps to work with no ticks of capture progress either. What are you supposed to do here?
Yeah, like he doesn't even use any of his abilities. He just kind of like flies around the corner. He's just basically dead.
Quartz here inside the hotel, knows that Stelios is hunting. Done a decent job over the course of King's Row on that trace of finding picks. The follow-up, though, just hasn't been there. Again, Naga taken down to critical HP, and this is going to be dangerous now. Goes into the Ramatra copy here, probably to try and stave off a Deadeye. Quartz opts to cancel it instead because there's no easy kills available. This is going to draw forth the sound barrier now from Twisted Minds. But Naga, his time in the stun is done. Comes out of Duplicate now. The focusing beam is great dancing of the shield there from Quartz to win that. That is dirty. Slay, though, very attentive with the constant healing for the Cassidy. Means that Twisted Minds are still at full strength now, but there's 2 ticks and counting for Peps, but they're on the wrong side of the map to be capturing the point. FD God will be detected attempting to cap himself, and KSA will need backup soon, but for now, he can hold his ground.
Yeah, and he still has this ultimate as well, right? If they want to, like, if they try and converge on the point, but dude, the shield there from KSA at range for Quartz on the Cassidy to just kind of like juggle on both sides is Naga's trying to take him down as you lose Cronus here towards the end. A good old-fashioned spawn camp going on right now with 30 seconds to go here for Team Peps to try and make a play. Just the pulse bomb on the table going up against I mean, what, they're gonna have 4 ultimates. Quartz gonna get this Deadeye with the way he shoots. It's gonna be rough even for Peps on their own map selection here to take this first checkpoint.
It's Coalescence now. Stelios going for a back cap with 2 ticks already. That's a pretty good start. Have they detected this? Cronus and Naga taken down by the Coalescence, and yep, Stelios is forced to move off the point. Slay will scout for the positioning of that Tracer there with a skill orb, and Stelios reveals himself once more, dashing across the point. I mean, Peps need to wait and stall for these reinforcements to return to the fray, but they're going to be walking straight into an Annihilation, and a Deadeye stick there came out. Quartz looks like he was knocked up briefly by Hybrid, but here is that Annihilation. And once again, Matt, like you said, when you have to contest into this ultimate, you are at an extreme disadvantage. Quartz has so much room to breathe here. Stelios has another recall forced out, and Kellex with the perfectly timed sound barrier, one that FD God, might I add, does not have available to himself. There it is. Mag Grenade is pretty nasty against Tracer, and Twisted Minds with an absolutely dominant showing on King's Row.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody was underrating them or kind of like looking past at this point, I think you're kind of crazy, right? As Peps, you look at this roster, like with how Twisted Minds is like making it look, and you're like, oh man, like it just might be a different level above. But like these are players who have been, you know, playing at the highest level of competition for as far back as I can remember, right? You know, with like you know, Naga and FD God Hybrid as well, right? Like you know, to do it against a team in the Swiss or early on is a little bit different for like Twisted Minds, but to do it against this type of competition definitely shows that they're a serious contender in EMEA.
I want to point out the Team Peps also are largely likely to come out of this group as part of the top 8. They are a very good team, and they've had a great start in their group with like a 3-0. But you see how desperately they're trying to set up positive sort of compositional matchups for themselves. And when you're attacking on King's Row, when you're so close to the spawn, you can do that. We saw a lot of switching from hybrid, right? Between different tanks here. KSA was forced to play Ramatra into whatever hybrid came out with. So there's a good chance you can put the Ramatra in a weaker spot, but that is why you play Ramatra. He doesn't have any really bad matchups, right? He's very serviceable against every kind of tank, basically every tank you could imagine there. And Quartz had time to come back on the Cassidy, a pick that wasn't answered once he made the switch off the Soja.
Yeah, and it is Twisted Minds of 2-0. Although that I think on the bottom it said no, but they are on 2-0. And I think it's also like the composition they're running. It's like very difficult, I think, to kind of go against, because a lot of teams want to play fast. They want to play aggressive. They want to play with like a Doom or something along those lines, and they're just like basically playing full counter dive. Like, hey, we're okay with you guys like coming in trying to engage, right? Like, if Naga doesn't get those kills early on with the focusing beam and like gets in, like the whole team kind of has to commit onto those, right? So if you don't get those kills, now everybody is stuck in the middle of a team that is, medium health in terms of like whole HP pool with a fully charged up Zarya, and then Quartz, like the hindrance on like whether it's the Echo, the Doom, or the Tracer basically means a guaranteed kill.
Against Doom and Tracer, it's so good, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you're in just a brutal spot with Colosseo up next. Maybe there's an opportunity here, right, with Colosseo. Like a lot of teams will just kind of like stand there at the beginning, right? Do the dance, right, where they won't really fight. They'll just kind of like wait. You get control, you push a little bit further, you kind of like play that dive aggressive, like maybe you can make something happen. I also think there's, on the flip side of things, a way higher chance that Twisted Minds can punish this, right? If you want to play aggressive and with these long sight lines on Colosseo, like there's so much room to back up and run away.
Absolutely. I mean, the pool for push right now is such that it's just New Queen Street in there, and Peps have just decided that they don't want to play that. So Colosseo is going to be locked in for our third map. Now, it is a 1st to 3. Twisted Minds could have it all tied up here and basically, guarantee their advancement here from this group A. Stick around, everybody. Much more to come here from our OWCS group stages here. This is Group A. Twisted Minds on the front foot, looking to clean this one up nice and early. And welcome back, everybody, to your EMEA Group A here at the OWCS. And Twisted Minds are on the precipice of a comfortable advancement here. A win in this game would be a big deal for them, arguably solidifying them as the #1 team to come out of this GSL group. That's right, we have GSL groups into double elimination playoffs later on here. So plenty of opportunities for teams that stumble. Peps seem to be doing just that in this series. First map had some competitiveness. Kings Row was not competitive in the slightest. Peps could not find the answer to a very straightforward composition that featured Ramatra and Cassidy from Twisted Minds, and they mangled them.
Yeah, like this is the winner's match of Group A, right? So both of these teams are sitting at 1-0 in the group. The winner of this goes to the main event, so obviously huge stakes on the line. But now the loser is not eliminated. They would still have another match, a loser's decider match of who kind of comes out from Group A into the double elimination bracket. So looking at things across the board for both teams, no substitutions on either side. Don't expect any. I think more now we know what Peps wants to do in terms of composition. How will Twisted Minds respond? Maybe they think they're going to come out with the Winston-based setup where they come out here with a Sojourn at the start. So talking a little bit about it though, like the Sojourn I think is okay here instead of the Cassidy because of the long sight line, right? Like you're not going to be able to, Cassidy excels in those like medium to short range, which you can force a lot of these fights, but you see this sight line here, which you're going to be fighting over pretty much most of the game. Like this is a great sideline for the Sojourn.
Yeah, again, a great pick as well if you don't know what tank your opponents are going to be on. This is a decent hedge against a dive tank and is quite serviceable under, any sort of condition. Again, you just can't farm your railgun up against that power block. So Court's going to be trying to get around Hybrid as much as possible here or find windows where Hybrid's not doing that to try and pressure him here with his charged rails. But that's it. That's all you need to do. Just find those windows. Hybrid with no help to speak of there, as Peps already forced to the right-hand side by KSA. He'll fall.
Yes, this will be Twisted Minds getting control of the bot straight away. Now it's just kind of like contesting that high ground, which you see you get Quartz set up there. You have your Lucio there to kind of like protect him or get him out of harm's way. And they've also done a great job of just kind of like tracking Hybrid of where he is, right? Like UB, whether it's taking fights with Stelios or just putting pressure on Hybrid before he even comes in, right? Doing a really nice job just stopping Team Peps getting really anything going throughout the series.
And Hybrid really has to think about this. Where the heck do I go? Moira fades away. He's probably just trying to force some of these defensive cooldowns if possible. Quartz eventually parts with the power slide. Stelios in the meantime trying to keep UB quiet. He attempted to pulse him. Well, what a way to make a statement here in a Tracer matchup. Now the Biotic Orb there doing a lot of work, working overtime in the backline there for Twisted Minds here. Everyone very low. Crucially though, it's Naga getting brought down by Quartz, and now again, that big burst damage is off the table.
I was going to say, I was really liking what we saw there from Twisted Minds because the Peps, right? You get control over that bot, like you have the high ground, and you're kind of like forced to kind of keep pushing them back in a way where Twisted Minds, they don't want to kind of like push straight into this high ground, right? They want to kind of like get control of it like over time where they have the ability to back up, and that is a railgun shot there. It takes out Naga.
Generally good dive from Peps. They get Stelios and Hybrid on the same timing. They make the dive together there. It forces the sound barrier. Somehow Quartz is able to find a kill with that overclock there, but still eventually the coordinated dive from Peps does prevail. The issue, well, they let the bot get under the bridge and make almost all the way towards that first checkpoint here. And now Twisted Minds have a chance to mix it up, and so they will. Quartz classically over towards the Cassidy. We have a Baptiste switch here for Slay.
Interesting. So you bring in the BAP. So obviously Immortality Field, fantastic to keep the Cassidy alive. Same with the regenerative burst in case they get quite low. This also could just be because you want to keep running this Ramatra because you're close to the annihilation, and maybe we see a change after or it's kept alive there with that Immortality Field.
Marcino Managa able to get a duplicate there in mid-air, but this is just taking too long. Echo has to get the job done quickly, especially against a composition that has all these like sort of life-prolonging tools like that Immortality Field. That can be really hard to do. Stelios, though, as the fight breaks down, has done a great job and eventually cleans Kellex up. But KSA, will it be able to trade that? Now it's just two Ramatra staring at each other.
Yes, looks like there it's just FD God. Now you have Hybrid back in the fight here. Is Doesn't look like KSA wants to give up any more of this bot progress. He's gonna use the power block, just gonna stand there, take space. So if they dive in, you have this annihilation to use.
Okay, so Hybrid there being affected by the mag grenade. Had to stay in that corner for a bit longer than he otherwise would have been comfortable with. Two Ramatras, what am I talking about? I don't know how I thought the Lucio silhouette looked like a bloody Ramatra. He's been hitting the gym. Pulse here for Stelios though. Great fight previously. Looks like in these longer fights, Stelios is able to really start to generate some momentum there in that backline. But being at 3 HP is not a great idea. He's able to back away though and get top back up.
You're okay with this stall though here if you're Twisted Minds, right? Like there's no, like you have what, like 63 meters advantage? Like there's no reason that you have to push on in. Pulse bomb there from Stelios looked like it may have connected with one, but there was an immortality field in the mix, so really kind of connects to nobody if you think about it.
Yeah, that's quite profound actually, Matt. But if you pulse bomb somebody in the woods and no one's there to see it and there's an immortality field, did you pulse bomb anybody at all? I don't know. Hybrid picked up here. Cronus able to find that Kitsune rush. But Quartz dominating once more. And now you
no immortality field there.
Yeah. No.
That one we know worked.
Peps, I mean, Twisted Minds want to slow the game down. They want to slow the game down as much as they possibly can. Give Slay time to find damage with that primary fire. Crucially, Quartz can set up here. If Peps can't get the job done quickly, which again is hard to do against this defensive setup, it's going to be brutal. Here's the annihilation here. Deadeye was questionable there from Quartz. KSA lacking backup, but plenty of damage in an annihilation that will go for a long time. But the duplication of Naga means that he has the durability to stay and fight, and KSA eventually will be dragged down.
Yeah, and that was like they got Hybrid low, and I think they kind of rushed everybody in there. But that was a sound barrier that comes through from FD God, and then trying to get that Deadeye off in that close quarter room, that was just not going to happen. So Twisted Minds switch over to the Zarya. They will keep the Baptiste in play though.
This is the comp that Twisted Minds want to play. So eventually they're able to get that set up with KSA finally being sent back to Swamp. Now again, they want to slow it down, continue to build value on this Zarya, get that charge going. Stelios, I don't know what happened there. Kellex showing him that old heads do prevail in some of those high intensity situations. Power block for Hybrid doesn't get a lot of value when you're just getting tickled by the Zarya beam. And this is dangerous. Already a checkpoint for Twisted Minds, right? They picked that up earlier on now, so they will extend that lead even further, and we'll be starting to play for this bridge.
And it's brutal because like you're forcing Peps, like they're gonna have to use some of these ultimates to even just kind of like get out of spawn, make any progress whatsoever.
I'm sorry.
Lose Naga.
I mean, not because you keep playing the Echo into the Cassidy, but
that's just tough.
Yeah. Were I a better person, I'd feel more sorry, Naga. UB with a pulse, didn't get a chance to use it. FT got able to blow him to smithereens here. See that bubble there being used for Slay. Baptiste's getting very close through that amp matrix, and Quartz can't slide away. I think Stelios actually body blocks him on the stairs to make sure he stays in the pulse, but Slay has the amp matrix and gets the headshot on Stelios through it. Notice FD God's positioning here. He might have been needed for a boop if Hybrid hadn't just cut Twisted Minds to pieces in that little corner.
I was gonna say it's enough to get a fight win though, right? So I mean, Peps even further behind now. You're like what, 3-4 fights from tying the game, I would say, which is gonna be tough, right? You can match sound barrier for sound barrier here, right? You do have the rush for Peps, but if you invest all of that into this fight just at halfway of the map, I mean, you're absolutely screwed trying to get the checkpoint.
Hybrid, they're trying to play in those alcoves on the left-hand side here, just so he's not subjected to the full force of this poke damage, but has to go in a half HP, and it's an early Suzu being used here. Naga has to get out of dodge. This Deadeye is too threatening, and Hybrid somehow caught careening through the air just as Quartz hit the trigger. That is absolutely dirty. 3 for the Cassidy now, and Cronus wants none of that smoke.
I mean, that is just filthy stuff as Cronus will fall. So, I mean, you didn't use your sound barrier there if you're Peps, but what are you going to do? Use it to, like, get back to the bot again, kind of like how they used it the last time, to take them out the small room by the checkpoint, where, man, Twisted Minds looks so good here today. It's going to be a very difficult team to beat.
I mean, the problem is that using your beat here doesn't advance your game plan at all as Team Peps.
Well, using your beat here, I mean, basically is like the game's like kind of over in a way anyway, right? Because like how are you getting the bot another 100+ meters without your sound barrier, like in a large advantage, right? Like, so they don't use it, which is positive. They are still behind by a large amount though.
Bottle starts swinging back. KSA build up a graviton surge there. You may ask, who the heck will be subject to this grab search? Well, you wait for Hybrid to dive in, and then you yeet it at him immediately. Peps with a pulse bomb online, and a duplicate to work with here as well. Having a Zarya duped by Naga, it's very powerful. You're going to get 2 projected barriers, bubbles rather, immediately available to throw some extra durability your team's way. FT got holding on the sound barrier. Bad news is Kellex will have one to match here, so a lot centers around KSA and this grab search.
Yes, they have to know the Graviton Surge is on the
I love that
for Twisted Minds, and I mean, you just have quartz on that off angle, right? It's like really difficult to do anything.
It's not just quartz, it's also Kellex speed boosting him to chase after Stelios. I think he must have used his recall or was short on blinks, and there's like a whole goon squad on the right hand side there of that pathway. They chase down the Tracer. Again, Mag Grenade is so messed up. It is so good at shutting down those flankers. Naga dupes up. Cassidy? Okay, that's a decision.
So far as well. Also, like, when you're looking at, like, I mean, maybe you dupe the Cassidy just to kind of get the extra HP, but you'd rather have that burst damage of the Echo, as that's going to be the sound barrier to answer the Graviton Surge. So you're still holding on here for Peps.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the end why FD God holds onto his sound barrier. Knew the Grav could be a bit of a game breaker here, but again, he uses it in order to simply get the bot heading back in the direction of Twisted Mind spawn. It doesn't advance their game plan at all. They're going to have to find another way to do that.
But
There's
you need to win a fight here in the middle of the map. I mean, if you don't win a fight here, I mean, it doesn't, you know, you've just been stuck here the entire time if you're Peps, right?
Kronos is, yeah, Hybrid is done. There's no way he's getting away from that. He takes far too much damage too early, and this Deadeye really just opens the space up. Oh, okay. Living dangerously as FD God is absolutely his MO. Great stick though from Stelios there. You have to count on that in a fight like this when that's the only ultimate you have to play with. Unfortunately, the rest of your win conditions, B through Z, are not satisfied. And Twisted Minds are going to sweep the series away as Peps struggle to find a foothold.
Man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like when I saw the matches that we had today, I was like, this is gonna be like a banger. I thought this was gonna be like a really close game between these two teams. And I knew Twisted Minds was good. I still think Team Peps is a pretty good team, but man, this was just dominating there from Twisted Minds. I mean, if there was any doubt about how good this team is or could be, right? I mean, that's got to be out the window now. I mean, they just looked tremendous.
Yeah, very impressive stuff from them. Now advancing, of course, to the main event here in stage 1, and I think it was pretty clear to all of us that they sort of belong there. We have, you know, pretty insane roster, and let's not forget like Kellex's involvement with like Team Saudi Arabia at the World Cup really carries over here. That synergy looks like they've not really missed a beat. But again, they get to play the better comp Zoe most of the time over the course of this series, and they're constantly jockeying in order to do that, despite the best efforts of Peps to get something that maybe could counter it.
Yeah, it felt like Team Peps they kind of just had like one approach to this, one playbook, and that was it. And they tried to run it against the wall. It was quite unfortunate to see, just not working out for them. Twisted Minds were controlling the tempo. They were happy to play it slow and making their comp work. Let's talk about a little more in depth on how they got it done. I mean, Naga got 0 done on that Echo. Thanks, of course, to the Cassidy. Just Quartz was playing lights out in this one.
I'll let you answer that one, Mitch.
I didn't catch that because I think Zoe's muted in Discord.
I was muted in Discord. Well, I wasn't muted in stream, I don't think.
You answer that one real quick.
You were reacting, Matt, I've got to give it to you. You were reacting as if...
We were both reacting. I would not have...
I just kept nodding like I could, and then I was like, oh, let me answer this one.
Matt sold that so well. I was like, am I the only one that can't hear Zoe? He's like,
yeah. Oh, I saw Mitch freaking out. I was like, I hope.
Long story short, what I said was Team Peps showed up with literally just one playbook, and they couldn't make their comp work. They didn't make the right switches there. Also, they just couldn't find an answer to the slow comp that we saw from the other side. Twisted Minds, they rolled it slow. They were happy to take it slow. And Naga got 0 done on the Echo. Portis Cassidy was lights out. What else did I say? I think that sums up my very eloquent
I agreed
spiel.
when you were saying it the first time.
Yeah, no, you really did.
You're so full of it, bro. That's wild. I mean, yeah, I think that like there are like ample opportunities to craft a composition that suits you a bit more if you're Team Peps, right? Especially on King's Row attack, you can change. You can change your comp a lot. You also know that like that's why KSA is playing Ramatra, because he knows his opponents are going to change the composition a lot. He wants something that's really very strong in general, that maybe doesn't have, overwhelming matchups against anything else, but it's just good, against sort of any other main tank. But they had chances like to put some pressure on this Cassidy. I think the dive makes sense, right? You have to find a way to get on him, but they weren't able to do so. And again, it's going to be a Twisted Minds advancement to the main event. They are by far the best team in this group.
I mean, it would be really interesting to see Twisted Minds go up against a team that can kind of like force them off of this, right? That can like run the dive effectively enough, because I think like dive generally always is like really strong, like in terms of like being able to burst players down. Like a team that can figure it out, like maybe it's like, hey, instead of just all-inning on Quartz, like we kind of like get rid of the Lucio or get rid of like the Baptiste or something like along those lines, right? Or at least forced out bubbles like onto those heroes and then go for the Cassidy, right? Like figuring out a way to like punish that and then seeing what Twisted Minds would do, because we never really got to see that in this series at all.
And I mean, so far they have not really been pushed, neither in the Swiss nor in the groups thus far. And they are now, of course, moving on to the main event. Peps are not out just yet. They will still be having a chance to also qualify for the main event. They're a stacked roster, so everything's still up for grabs for them. Now, we're going to take a very quick break for now. And afterwards, we will be back with Buo Spray Check and Left Right Good Night on the other side of this.